Houston's own, to go there and be his bat or his Robin. And those two thrive for a little while. But, it's about the efficiency. We're talking about a guy that shoots 40% from the three. He doesn't jack a whole lot of shots to begin with. And now with the Celtics on this particular team, he doesn't have to. Over the last 3 years, you're talking about one of the best free throw shooters in the league. 90%, 90%, 90%, 95% in 08-09. I mean, are you kidding me? Absolutely, Ray Allen's a Hall of Famer. He's not only produced, he has been productive at his position. He'll go down as one of the best shooters in NBA history. To me, it's not even close. I have no idea what Colin was talking about this morning when he said he's a great player, but he's not a great player. He's a great player. He is. He doesn't have LeBron kind of skill, but for what he does, and in his prime, and you go back, he can put it on the floor, finish at the rim. Again, age, it does it to everybody. 713-780-ESPN is the number. I don't think it's a good idea for Texas to leave the Big 12. Also, if you didn't know this, the Big 12 apparently has drawn a line in the sand saying that they want to hear from Nebraska and Missouri by Friday, the deadline. They want to know what their intentions are if they're going to vote for the Big 10. Nebraska has until 5 p.m. Friday. It's the deadline. Let's go to Mike to get things started. Mike, welcome in. You're on ESPN 97.5. You are our first caller presented by Bud Light. Welcome in, Mike. Put them up.
Hey, put them up, Dukes.
What's going on?
Wanted to talk about this Pac-10 expansion, man. This is I'm going to handle this two different ways, but this is bar none the worst move that UT or OU or any of the teams in the Big 12 South can make. On an individual team basis, say one or two of them go. Like you said earlier, you're inviting a brutal road schedule. You may not necessarily be playing the toughest teams in the country on the road, but say what happens when you have to fly to Oregon 1 week for a state game. You fly back to Austin Sunday, got a couple days of practice, and then got to fly back to L.A. for another Saturday
Brutal.
game. Brutal. No team can make it through that. Second thing, if you want to say if all of them go, worst case scenario, then you're going to have a South team, a South division in the Pac-10, which is essentially the Big 12 South right now. So that's going to be decided pretty much every year, give or take, between UT and OU. Then the winner of that is going to have to play, in good years, they'll have to play USC in a conference championship game. Now, a BCS school, you can't have more than two teams from the same conference in the BCS.
Correct.
So say what happens if a one-loss UT and OU, one of their one losses is to USC. USC's undefeated. You got a one-loss UT and a one-loss OU. Are you going to give another BCS bid to, say, like a WAC team or someone like over a one-loss UT or OU? That's going to open the door for much more BCS controversy than we already have, and they're not going to be able to figure out any kind of reasonable answer for it.
Mike, you bring up a great point. I love it when genius comes to the show. You're exactly right, and it causes more havoc with already college football. You think BCS stinks. You can't stand it. It doesn't work, Dukes. I don't get it. That's going to cause a lot. He's right. I mean, that's down the road, but think about it. Those are the kind of scenarios that you're looking at. I think this is a bad decision if the University of Texas decides to leave the Big 12. Let's talk to Adam here on ESPN 97.5. Adam, what's going on with you today? Put him up.
Put him up, dude.
What's up?
Basically, I think, why can't the Big 12 stay together? If Missouri and Nebraska wants to leave, why can't they invite, Texas Christian, Boise, schools like that, U of H, to just come into the Big 12 where it makes more sense and keep the conference intact?
I'd like to see the conference intact, and I'd like to see it stay as is. But if it doesn't, and I said this on Friday, potentially you're looking at inviting, SMU, TCU, maybe UTEP, Sam Houston. Look, UH, I don't know how it plays out, but if two schools leave, you need to replace those two schools, and you still want the regional rivalries of what you have now. I mean, you're not going to go invite Rutgers, So I'd like to see it stay intact. If it doesn't in its current form, I still would like to see some form of the Big 12. I just think if Texas leaves, and I'm sorry, no, apologies to all these other schools, including Oklahoma, who has, I think, the outside of Texas, the other reason why the Pac-10 wants to grab these schools, the Big 12 just doesn't exist. Because it's the school you love to hate right now. I'd love to see them stay together. I really would. I'd love to see the Big 12 hold hands and stay together.
I'm so in love with you.
I mean, why can't we all just get along?
Whatever you want to do.
Why can't we just get more money with our TV contract? I mean, I don't understand. This is simple. Texas and OU and Okie State. Stay together. 713-780-ESPN is the phone number. I wish it was that simple. I do. Glenn, you're up next on ESPN 97.5. What's up, Glenn?
Put them up, Duke.
Put them up.
I got to agree and disagree with you. I'm going to agree with you from the fact that Texas, any elite team with these super conferences, they're not going to benefit from it because they're the elite. They already have recruiting angles in the West Coast. Schools that are going to benefit are going to be your A&Ms, your second tier, if you will, conference schools from each conference, because they're going to get those recruiting capabilities on the West Coast. Just like in Arizona State, they're going to have much more recruiting capabilities in Texas because of this conference. Now, the thing that I have to disagree with you about is the fact that you're saying that Texas will become a good team in a great conference.
Yeah, they won't dominate the Pac-16.
They will dominate the Pac-10, and here's why. You have a 16-team conference. How many conference games are there each year? Eight.
How many conference teams?
You have 8 conference games in football each year, correct?
Correct.
So you have to play all this.
As of right now, with this new Pac-16 potential, I mean, Glenn, I'd want to say 8, but they may change that under the bigger conference situation. I don't know.
Well, even if they change it to 9, they can't go much above that.
Okay.
But you think about it. You've got to play the teams in your division every year.
You're right.
That's 7 games. So you're only going to play 1 or maybe 2 teams from the other division each year. Texas will still continue to dominate because of the competition that Texas will be playing.
Okay, so let me give you the scenario that was just brought up, which I think is great, Glenn. Let's say that's true. Under the circumstances of what you're talking about, Texas is winning their side. They play USC. They lose to USC. USC wins. They're the top teams in the country, but you can't have 2 BCS teams in the national championship. Texas fans cry until next year.
I agree. But the thing is if we go to these super conferences, that scenario is going to have to change. You will have to allow, because there's going to be less conferences to pick from.
Okay, but if you do that, then you know what? The argument about letting everybody in and there's creating more money for every conference across the board, I mean, it's not true then anymore. I mean, the reason the BCS works now, in my opinion, I've said this, is it puts the number 1, number 2 team together. We see the best possible national championship game. But the other reason is that you have schools like Boise making $15 and $18 million for their conference. That won't happen if you start allowing 2 teams from a super conference into the national championship game and into the Fiesta Bowl or the Sugar Bowl. Now you only have really 2 or 3 conferences that matter.
I agree with that. The issue that I see with regard to these super conferences, just as you said, if Missouri and Nebraska were to leave, I don't see how we can get unfortunately, a U of H or a TCU, because their stadiums aren't big enough. No. They won't bring enough revenue.
They won't. And that's the problem. I mean, look, pick a school, New Mexico. I've heard Utah. You know, why don't they go after Utah? That actually makes sense for them to go to the Pac-10. Glenn, great phone call. Really good stuff. This is interesting. It just is. And as much as I love and you love college football, the landscape is changing. It really is changing. And if it doesn't happen, the decisions at least aren't made this year. I'm telling you, 2011, it's going down. It's going down. 713-780-ESPN is the phone number. Officials last night, it's taking the Stars out of the game. I completely disagree with that. We'll come back with plenty more of your phone calls here on the show. If you can't get in, email me, Dukes@ESPN975. Find me on Twitter. Put them up, 975.